I walked out of a family business where I was leading the operations for a multi-million-dollar business. At that time, I didn't know who Gary was. I didn't know what advertising was, but I just thought it was a cool company. And I applied to VaynerMedia. I was then an intern on Gary's team in 2015. My day one is getting coffee for some people, shipping books. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, I got to do something differently to show what I'm worth. So I went from taking things that came at me to start finding things that I could do to bring value. 10 weeks later, I had my first one-on-one with Gary, and he was like, I've never met someone who's impressed me more in such a short time. 2 months later, he offered me a full-time job, and here I am 10 years later running the brand. I always say I have the best job at Vayner because I actually work every day with Gary Vaynerchuk.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to get into this today with you. I feel there's a lot of wisdom in this episode. And so really excited to kind of uncover it. Sid, you said that execution is everything. Can you share how the bamboo tree metaphor shaped your philosophy for patience, growth, and results?
Yeah, to me, I think patience comes from self-belief. If you really believe in who you are and you understand who you are, and you're not setting unrealistic expectations for yourself, or you're not trying to prove it to someone else, you will be patient in life. There is no milestone that you're trying to achieve for anyone else, and it's for you. And if you're realistic with yourself, if you're in constant conversation with yourself, the self-belief brings the patience. So patience is the foundation for everything, but the foundation for patience comes from self-belief. And that is really an important pillar in how you actually work in everyday life. How are you interacting with different people, with yourself? How are you navigating every day? Because at the end of the day, if you understand yourself, the patience piece becomes a very easy part of the equation. For me, growth comes from curiosity. I think that if you're curious, you will seek new challenges, you will seek new skills, you will seek new relationships, you will seek new experiences. You will always seek things that will make you better at what you are today. And to me, the big challenge is not to prove, but to improve. You're not proving anything to anyone, you're improving yourself. And that's where growth comes from. And that's the patience leads to the growth, and then results, they just become subjective. Results, what you think is a good result today, it might not be a good result 5 years from now, and it might just become a stepping stone 5 years from now. So results will happen because you're growing, and the growth should be the result. But the end result will keep changing as you grow because your barometer of what you want to achieve will keep changing. But it all, at the end of the day, is grounded in self-belief. If you're confident in yourself and if you're realistic with yourself, the goalpost can keep changing, and it should not create any kind of indecision because at the end of the day, you're aligned with what the long-term plan is, which is to keep improving.
Mic drop. Should we just leave now? I think we're done. That was so good and so wise. I just actually wanted to touch on patience a little bit. I'm not a patient person at all. Very millennial of me.
What?
But two things that have improved my patience over time. The first is marathon running and endurance. I'm an endurance runner. And so, the process of like training for and kind of running a marathon has taught me like deep patience and knowing that, and progress, that incremental small pieces of progress over time are going to compound for you to do something that at the beginning feels impossible. But the second thing that has taught me a lot of patience is faith. And I lean into it all the time, like this absolute, like kind of unwavering faith that it will come. Whatever I want will come. And I just have to keep getting the reps in and doing it, and it will come. And it's whether that's money, whether that's love, whatever it is, adventure. I'm unwavering faith. It will come.
No, I like that. I mean, it's a fantastic start. And I think it's actually counterintuitive to so much in culture these days, to be honest. Everything's faster, everything's quicker. And it's really interesting because we're going to get into your career, which, not to spoil things, social media. But like social media so often and digital marketing is we're trying to show people of like, what you could be, what you want to be. This is what you want. This is what you should buy. This will make you happier. This will make you, more satisfied. Da, 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 da. But then to hear from you being like, actually, it's yourself. It's your self-belief, self-confidence. Don't prove anything, just improve, right? So I really am going to start pulling that apart, like your job to like, because I completely agree with everything you said there. I think it's so insightful. And I think so many mental health issues start from people chasing things when they're not, introspective of it. And then the other part, the end result, I like how you kind of didn't even focus on that because it changes so much. Right? It's like that ground, that's the whole component of it. It's that journey part, and the destination's always going to be switching. Yeah. Maybe today it's money. Maybe tomorrow it's your kids. Maybe the next week it's adventure, right? Like, so yeah, really, really insightful. It's like wisdom. That's a good word for it.
But yeah, I think let's talk about a little bit about that contradiction as well. You work for Gary Vaynerchuk, or you work with Gary Vaynerchuk. You built his brand over the last 10 years. I think people look at his success, look at his followers, look at the numbers, look at the engagement, look at the views, and think that happened overnight. And that's not the case. Like, maybe tell us a little bit about that kind of journey of the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. So I can talk about the whole Gary's brand start as well a little bit. Gary started making videos for Wine Library, which is his family business, every day, reviewing wine so that he could, again, build a brand for the wine store to actually sell wine. But he wanted to do it in a different way, where he wanted to be very unbiased towards his reviews, towards the wines, even when they were carrying it. And it kind of got him in trouble. I think sometimes we haven't really discussed that in detail, but 2006, when YouTube came out, Gary started making videos probably 2 months after YouTube was launched. And then he made 1,000 episodes, 1,000 episodes over the next 4 years, all the way to 2010. When people talk about overnight success, like that was before people even knew Gary Vee. This was the guy that was running his family business and doing social media content for around wine. He was known as the wine guy. So then in 2011, I think, when he decided to move out of his family business and start his own company, a lot of people were like, don't do that. You're the wine guy. Don't do social media. And that's when his journey as Gary Vee really started, and VaynerMedia started. I started on his team in 2015 when we were probably 1 year into Gary having a team for his brand. And at that time, social media was very different. It was YouTube and Facebook. And you could post long form on YouTube, long form on Facebook, and people were very heavily focused on SEO and articles. Taking that and posting content every day to today, where it's 2025, we're making around 1,500 assets a month across his brand, all socials, in 8 different languages. There is a lot of reps and years that have gone into from 2006 to 20 years next year. It's not overnight success. And when you ask Gary, like, he's just getting started. He's at a point where he wants to buy the New York Jets, and we're not even close to him being able to do that yet. So he says 50 is halftime. He actually turns 50 in November this year. And he believes he's just at halftime. And he's, with the advancement in technology and health and everything, everyone's going to live till 90, 100. And so this is just the beginning.
Halftime. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I love that though. Yeah. Bring it on. And 1,500 posts a month of Gary. And again, that includes different platforms, different formats, different languages. We're translating in 6 or 7 different languages right now. And this is where, like, a lot of this is built around a foundational belief from Gary, which is invest in the brand. And he has spent a lot of time back in 2015 to have a 8-person team that focuses on his brand was unheard of. And he was investing in a team that now is almost 30, 35 people,
because he believes in the whole concept of building the brand. And he's been investing over the years. He is still very involved with his content. Like, he writes the post copy for every Instagram post that goes up, even today.
That's wild.
He's fully involved. I was on a call with someone we've recently partnered with, and they were fascinated by the fact that Gary still writes post copy, even though they've been working with Gary for the last 10 years.
I also kind of just want to put that into perspective for people, because I think a lot of people don't realize the volume of content that is often needed to have an impact. So my last role, I was head of social and influencer marketing at Disney, and worked on the launch of Disney Plus for 8 countries in Southeast Asia, Hong Kong and Taiwan. And, you know, at one point we were kind of producing 30,000 social posts a year. But that is Disney. It's across 5 brands. You know, we had Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, National Geographic, and then they have kind of general entertainment in Asia called Star. And then that was obviously the kind of multi-level layers of taking one asset and maybe adapting it for multiple channels, multiple formats, and then multiple languages. So that's kind of how we got to that number. And I think we were a fraction of what Netflix was producing.
Wow. So it was 30,000 posts a year for Disney. And Gary does 18,000.
1,500 a month.
18,000, yeah. Oh, and I didn't do that math. Yeah.
Crazy. It's not like half Disney. And he writes, he writes his own stuff.
If Gary hears this, he's going to be like, all right, we got to step it up. And yeah, we're going to go to
step it up.
Check it out to Pete Disney.
Gary, if you're listening, step it up.
Oh, well, that's his job. That's his job for V.
It needs more work.
For V friends. No, but it's wild. You know, you look at a company the size of Disney and you look at the assets that they've got as well. You know, 90% of that was taking assets that already existed and recutting, re-editing and telling new stories out of the content that we already had. But Gary's pretty much shooting all of this, right? From scratch as well?
Yes and no. So the way that I describe it is we take 3% of Gary's life and we make it 100% of his social media. So Gary really is a serial entrepreneur. He's running multiple businesses. He doesn't have time to make content specifically for his brand every day. However, he has speaking engagements. He has podcasts he goes on. He will have one-off sessions where he will make content specifically for social. But on an everyday basis, he's an entrepreneur. He's running VFriends, which is Pokemon meets Sesame Street meets Marvel. It's his IP that he's building. And then he's running VaynerMedia, which is a Fortune 100 company with over 2,000 employees globally. He's running Vayner Sports, Sasha Group, all the companies that are under the VaynerX umbrella, plus VFriends, plus his investments. He's involved in running businesses. He enjoys that part as much as he enjoys content. So he's balancing both. But at the end of the day, that's why we have a team of 30, 35 people, because we take 3% of his time and make it his complete social media presence.
So I believe that you turned around a century-old textile business and then built a career in digital and AI. Let's just tell us a little bit about that story. And then I'd love to kind of get into the philosophy of your decisions.
So I'm 5th generation entrepreneur in my family. So I have a family business in textiles back in India. And we started in 1928, actually almost 100 years. In 2 years. My belief always was I was supposed to be the next person taking over the business because that's what everyone in the family has done. I grew up as a kid in an entrepreneurial family, very open to taking risks, focusing on experiences, building confidence, always had the backing of my parents to do whatever I wanted to do, which is a big foundational piece in how I even sit here today. And throughout this journey, as I finished my undergrad, I'm an electrical engineer. I finished my undergrad and my 2 choices were going to my family business or taking a job. I decided to take a job because I wanted to learn what it was to work for someone before I started managing people. I didn't want to walk into my family business and just start managing people as I had no experience in that. And I also wanted to learn that. It was my curiosity of, I want to learn what it is to be an employee before I do this. I joined this company called Siemens and I worked there for 3 years as a primary HVDC engineer, which is all heavy words to say I was a very core part of their engineering team. So I was a typical electrical engineer designing substations all over the world. And from there, my goal was always to do an MBA from the US. And for me, that was just part of the journey of learning and curiosity. And it was an experience I wanted to have in life. I decided to give my GMAT. And that part was an interesting part of my process, because the way I live life is I always want to do everything well. Like, I don't want to just do things because they're on my plate. I want to give it my best shot. So while I was still at Siemens, I would wake up every day at 4 a.m. From 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., I would study for my GMAT. 7 a.m., I would start getting ready, go to work, be at work at 8 a.m., 8:15, 8:30, and then be back home at 5:30, get in some workout, sleep at 8:39 every day religiously, and wake up at 4 a.m. next day again and do this. I did this consistently every day without fail for 3 months, and then gave my GMAT. I got a good score, decent, and then applied for an MBA at Babson, got into Babson, which is the entrepreneurial B school here in the US. My goal was to learn business. So I quit Siemens, joined my family business, was there for 2 years. And all I did in the business in those 2 years was take all the learnings I'd learned from Siemens, which was operations, which was, I had done some marketing while I was at Siemens. I'd learned some skills of pitching to clients. I'd learned marketing. I'd learned operations. I brought all of that knowledge into my family business and completely changed the way we did our warehousing, how we were pitching to our clients, and the business grew 3x in 2 years. So at that point, I was at an inflection point where I was like, I can keep growing at this pace, or I should go for my MBA, gain that, come back and build the business even bigger. And so I came here to the US. My goal was still to go back to India after the MBA. So I only had 3 months to gather this experience. So I decided to come here and apply for a lot of companies in New York. Luckily, I found VaynerMedia. At that time, I didn't know who Gary was. And I applied to VaynerMedia. I didn't know what advertising was, but I just thought it was a cool company. It was in New York. Those were my 2 criteria. And luckily for me, they thought I was smart. And I was total serendipity. I was put on Gary's team. I was an intern on Gary's team in 2015. I walked out of a family business where I was leading the business. My dad had gone into semi-retirement. I was leading the operations for a multi-million-dollar business. And now I'm here a year later after my MBA summer internship. I'm an intern. My day one is getting coffee for some people, shipping books. Day 2 is standing at a copier, just scanning photos and putting them in Google Drive. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, I got to do something differently to show what I'm worth. And that's the moment where it also changed for me. So I went from taking things that came at me to start finding things that I could do to bring value. And the rest is history. 10 weeks later, I had my first one-on-one with Gary, and he was like, I've never met someone who's impressed me more in such a short time. And 2 months later, he offered me a full-time job. And here I am, 10 years later, running the brand.
That was such a huge decision. What did your family say? Just asking.
That was like my first question.
Asking the Asian question.
So I've been blessed with parents who've been very supportive of my decisions. My parents both had different approaches to it. My father, he's the entrepreneur, so he was driving a lot of the entrepreneurial side of it. And then my mom, she grew up in a household that was more traditional, and she believed that you build up your skills, back to your point of like, go to the right school, build your skills, be something, be worth something to a company that'll hire you and things like that. And they both did a great job of balancing both. While my dad didn't lean me too much towards school doesn't matter, just focus on because you're going to graduate and be part of the business. My mom didn't lean too much towards everything is about the grades that you get in school.
Right.
And they both did a really good job of balancing that. They had belief in my decision making that I will if I don't think it is the right decision a year in, I will pivot. Nothing needs to be set in stone. You don't have to constantly follow one path, because the person you are today is wiser than the person you were yesterday. Mm-hmm. So you can change your mind to what decision you made even yesterday, because you should be smarter today than yesterday. Something that Gary says that I've heard a lot from him is, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you will not give the best to something, then you're probably doing that in a lot of things in your life. So for me, school was always something you had to do well, but also the extracurriculars were important. Also the experiences were important. Traveling is important. All of those things were equally important, because it shapes who you are. There's not one thing that really will make you who you are. It's all the things. And you start realizing that much later in your life as you look back over the last 10, 15 years of like the different pieces that are coming together as to who you are today. But they're all foundational back to how you grew up and how you were making decisions throughout your life to reach this point. The risk taking, the pivoting, the reaction to a failure, things like that.
Do you think that's the reason why you've been at Vayner for so long? Because it's not a normal company, right? It's not a 9 to 5. It's not you go to work and you're doing the same thing every day. It's very like focused on growth, new things. It's fast paced. It's let's keep failing until we get it right. It's a different kind of environment than, quote unquote, a regular job.
I always say I have the best job at Vayner because I actually work every day with Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, I get to see him in action every day, the closest from anyone else that works for that company. To me, the reason why I've been here for so long is because I fell in love with the person that I work for. He's a great human. He's the same human that you see on social media. He's exactly the same genuine human. Through my early years, he gave me a lot of confidence. He built a lot of trust in me. He gave me a lot of things that I didn't understand why he was even trusting me at that level. And it was the foundational pieces of our relationship that made me want to stay here as long as I've stayed. And again, it's till date. It's every time the next level that as the projects get bigger, as the challenges get bigger, the more support and confidence and trust you get in dealing with those things. That just makes you feel invincible. You will make mistakes and you will have days that you've made the wrong choice, but that's okay. You move on, you learn from that and you move on. If you don't learn from that, that's where the problem starts. But if you learn from that, you move on, you become better again. The next day, it's back to the growth piece. The crux of, I think, what my role at least is, I always say that I'm the head of innovation at VaynerMedia because Gary's a yes client. He will let us do anything and anything we want to do. So like the craziest of ideas you can have, his answer is never no. It's always show me, because he wants to see what that means. If he doesn't get it or if he doesn't understand, he's always leaning to a yes, then a no. And that's why my job keeps changing every day and gets more exciting every day. And it's just why I'm here for so many years.
I think you touched on something super important, maybe just before that too, that like I've always found is like a secret weapon in life. And it's the fact that you said like everything you do, you try to do to your best. I think people don't realize, because that's definitely how I try to do things, is that becomes a habit actually. Whether it's sport and you try as hard as you possibly can on the field or the rink or whatever, you take that to business, you take it to painting your garage, you do your best job everywhere, and then eventually it becomes just a habit. And so everything you do the best of your capabilities. It doesn't mean it's going to be great. It doesn't mean you're not going to fail. It doesn't mean, but like it also gives a great sense of confidence and relief too that you've always given it your best. Because the worst is if you don't try and you miss out on something because it wasn't your best effort, right? So just to double click that, because I don't think people realize that can become a habit that you don't consciously think, and it's not effortful anymore. You just naturally try to do your best job at everything you do.
I want to counter that a little bit though. Like I have in the past suffered from crippling anxiety because of perfectionist behaviors. Mm-hmm. Like I just doing something to the best of your ability, but not ever able to kind of get it finished or get it done because you always feel like there's more in you, you know, and it has to be perfect. It has to be right, maybe before it gets out into the world. Is I think there almost needs to be a caveat. It's like it's the best of your ability without compromising the intention of what you need to do in the first place.
Yeah, it makes sense. And there should always be in context of like greater limitations of life. So if painting your garage to a certain point means you're going to give up time with your family, then yeah. So no, I think you're right. Like it's never full out all the time. It's always in, but we've all been in the situations when you're like, I can just be a bit lazy here, right? Or I can do, you know, it's just like making sure that when you do it as best as you can. But yeah, perfectionism is can interfere with that for sure. But
I think an interesting piece in there is the intent, which is something I really strongly believe in. Like anything that you do in life, like what's the intent behind that? Why are you making that decision? Is the intent to make the best product because you really care about the best product? Or are you trying to make the best product because you care about how other people will perceive it? That difference changes the way that same emotion that you have, you will internalize that differently. And same to your point, like when you're doing something, when you're not really putting your best at it, is it because, and this is something that I talk about a lot as well, when you're coming up with a lot of ideas, sometimes it's just best to put them out in the world. Don't try to perfect them. But at the same time, are you doing it because you're lazy and you don't want to perfect it? Or are you doing it because you want to put it out and see how it's received before you improve it? And to your point, like sometimes if it's the version of you just want to move fast and get some data and like get some response, then it's good. But if you're really not convinced and you're just putting it out there, then do you really want to do it? Then why are you spending your time and energy in life actually doing something that you actually don't want to give you 100% to?
Yeah.
And so it's like the intent of why you're making that decision that changes the way you perceive that end result as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, to what you originally said too, it's that conversation with yourself. Because like usually we know, right? Like usually if you really start and if you give yourself time to think things through, you can get to an answer pretty quick with that. I
think your best looks different on different days as well. You know, like I think they always say in sports, right? Don't they? Like a third of your training is going to be like, you've got to be amazing. You're going to be, all of the variables or whatever you're measuring are going to be amazing. A third of your time, you're going to be kind of like average. And then a third of your time, you're underperforming. Mm-hmm. But that actually, when you put it all together, it is success. That's what training looks like. That's what doing the reps looks like. You don't have to be at your best 100% all the time. Because if you're trying to get to that, it's just going to cause you stress and anxiety.
Yeah, fair. I think so. For me though, like at your best is different from trying, right? Mm-hmm. So like the perfect conditions need to happen for you to hit your best personal marathon, right? Like it needs to be a lot of different things, but it doesn't mean when you're trained, you're not trying your hardest, right? It's just like when you play sports or like when you coach sports, it's like in practice, you make your players run. Like when you whistle that blows, like you run, right? Because if they build the habit of always pushing it. So yeah, it doesn't always necessarily, I guess, yeah, it's a super important point you said. It doesn't mean you're hitting your best, but you're giving your best, if that makes sense.
So let's come back to kind of the bamboo metaphor a little bit. It's trending at the moment. Not sure it will be by the time this video comes out, but we're going with it anyway. Was there a moment that you've ever almost given up before the bamboo has sprouted?
That was the moment when I was here for my MBA, and I wouldn't say giving up, but pivoting is how I see everything. Like, you have to be smart in life where you give you 100%, but then also be aware that, this is the time to pivot. Not being stuck in your ways and always being ready to pivot, because you're now taking in information, experiences, and data around the world and understanding what is a better decision. And that to me is less giving up and more pivoting. My game plan was to finish my MBA and go back and build my family business, which is what's been the plan for the last 25 years of my life. That's what I've been planning towards. But then when I saw the opportunity, I weighed my options, I made the pivot. And yes, there was a risk there because I was doing really well in the business and everything was going really well. it was a risk. And at the same time, it was a risk starting as an intern at a company here in New York in a new country that I've never lived in, and deciding between the two, I pivoted to the social media life. And here, as I said, 10 years later, I think it was the best decision of my life because it helped me learn so much about myself. The things that I'm able to talk about today about just myself and the bamboo tree philosophy and the foundations and sprouting and things like that, they all have become the awareness over the last 10 years of me realizing that I actually was able to do all of this. I was able to take my skills from being an engineer, becoming the analytics person over there, to being the marketer in my family business, to now at the agency in Gary's world, I am one of the few people in the company that can actually do ads, give creative feedback, and platform strategy all in one. So taking all the experiences from your life and then building them into what you're doing now, and then keep building on that, I think that was a good moment for me where I realized that pivoting in life is important. And I pivoted. I did pivot early on when I went from an engineer to my family business, but that was still an easy planned one. But this one was a big risky decision. And I'm glad I sit here 10 years later knowing that it was the right one.
I think that's the hardest decisions in life, honestly, when it's like, if you're at 1, it's easy to switch to try to get to 10. It's very obvious if you're in whatever your life, it's easy to do. But if you're at like a 6 or 7, maybe like a 5 to 7, when things are okay, right? Like clearly life was great with the business.
Great. I would probably say I was at 8.5.
Oh, well, God, that's even worse then. Yeah, those are the hardest decisions to make when life is good or it's okay. But it's like, do you just want to live your whole life as okay? Those are tough ones. Yeah. Especially with kids too, because as soon as kids come, then you're like, I can't even make a decision for myself anymore.
Yeah. They come along for the ride. I'm just like, they're so much more resilient than you think.
They are.
You have a little girl, right?
I have 2 girls.
2 girls? Oh, you're a girl dad.
Oh,
love it.
Thank you.
How old are they?
So 3.5 and 5-month-old.
Oh,
you're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Mine are 4 and 2, so similar idea.
Right 6
there.
and 4.
Yeah,
we're all there.
We look dead inside.
I know. We've been away from them for a week, and we're just both like, oh, we miss our babies. Now it's time. It's time to go home.
Yeah. It's a wicked story, like your whole life journey. And it takes, I think there's a lot of courage in there that maybe you gloss over, but those were big decisions. As a parent now, like how are you going to try to transfer those learnings and that wisdom to your kids? Because you had great parents yourself. What are you going to do for your kids?
The way that I see it, and this is like my wife and I talk about it a lot, is my thesis on that is just experiences. I don't need to teach them anything. I just need to expose them to different experiences, and they will pick up the skills that they need to pick up. Because I don't want to make them into something that they're not. I just need them to be aware of a lot more things than being in a cocoon. So the more experiences they have, they will pick up the things that they want. So it's less about how I will parent them. It's more about how they will consume the experiences that we will expose them to. Mm-hmm. So back to your point of resilience, like my wife and I strongly believe in this, that they come along for the ride. We travel. We're always on the move. We constantly take them everywhere with us. They're part of our life. We don't detach from them just because we don't think they will enjoy a certain thing or anything, because everything for them is an experience. And that's where you start seeing the personality of your kids as well. Like you start understanding who they are and things like that. Again, I only have one right now that can really, where I see that. With the 5-month-old, I'm not really in that phase right now, but you can see what they lean towards and not. And like, you just react to that rather than trying to nurture something that you specifically want. They might not be an entrepreneur. They might not want to take risks. They might want to be in the safe zone, and that's fine. Because for me, the North Star is happiness. You got to be happy, because if you're happy, then you make other people around you happy, and that just creates a happier space. And there's less stress and anxiety and a lot more other things that people don't even understand when you're just happy.
Yeah.
Don't create I said this on a podcast recently where it's like, it's not the 2-week vacation, the 4-week vacation that you take every day, every year. That's the happiness. It's the happiness you do every day. When you get home, you see your family. When you're away from your family, like how you're interacting with them, all of those things, the things you do every day, back to your point of like habits, the things you do every day, they define your happiness, not the 4 vacations in a year.
Oh, it touched on like the single most important thing in life that like I think so many people lead astray. Like if you're not chasing happiness, like what the hell are you doing? Right? Like what's the point of this if you're not trying to get to that state, right?
And I think the important thing is like you are responsible for your own happiness, not your partner, not your family, not your kids, not your friends. You are responsible.
Not your government. Not your community. Yeah.
No chance with the government, right? But you're responsible for your own happiness.
Yeah.
And it's also important to be happy today. Like there's a lot of times that I also have conversations where people are miserable today because they think there's a happier future.
I'll be happy
once I get to that point, but they're unhappy today. And that's not a good way to live because that future is not guaranteed. And you're just and the effects of you being unhappy till that future, you don't even know that. So
yeah,
you want to I always talk about this concept of diversify your happiness. You need to have multiple sources of happiness in your everyday life. Your kids, your family, your work, your friends, your hobbies, something you like to consume, your food for some people, something that you like to drink, like entertainment, like stuff. Whatever version of that is, you like to collect something, things like that. Like because one or the other thing in your life will always have a bad day.
Yeah.
But the net 5 out of the 6 are still happy, and that keeps you happy.
Mm-hmm.
Just coming back to the kids as well, like the experience thing is super important. And that's like one of my biggest value. Like I value experiences over things. Like I don't need the stuff, but I do need to get out and have new experiences. And that's something that, I'm really exposing the kids to.
Spending as much time with them as you can to like the experience, taking them with you, getting involved. So I think it's actually quantity of time with your kids way more than quality time.
I would caveat that quantity of time, maybe without being on your phone or being distracted, obviously.
That's where I think the balance is like the quality can still be 15 minutes a day rather than it being an hour, 2 hours a day, but it's quality. And then that quality just quantifies itself because at the end of the day, your kid's not going to remember every day of their life. They're not. They're going to remember the memories or the certain things that the way you showed up, the way you did certain things. And it's not everything. They're not going to remember everything, but there'll be experiences and things that they'll remember. And we as well, like we forget things from the past years. We remember certain moments the same way kids will remember certain moments, but you never forget how you feel, how you felt in a certain moment. And those are the things that creating those experiences with your kids. Back to your point of like the resilience and like the commitment. Those are the things that when your kids see you do that, they want to try doing that too, because you are their role model.
I just want to wrap it up. We started out talking around kind of the bamboo philosophy of the roots growing underground before the bamboo accelerates and grows extremely quickly. But, I think it's putting in the reps, having the patience, waiting for that. And the growth will come, the results will come. Anything to kind of add to that.
I always go back to the Karate Kid movie in which they wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
He makes the kid do that. It's like, I'm here for karate. Like, he's like, no, first do this. That part is the part where like you have to understand that you're building skills in life for a bigger challenge. Your goal is to build the skills from what you have today and learn the most because there's a much more bigger resilience needed in the future that you're building towards. If you don't want to grow in life, this is it. Play for this, and that's fine. If you want to grow in life, you have bigger challenges, ambitions, and things like that. There are things that you have to prep for that are beyond what you're doing today. And for that, you have to keep pulling from different experiences, different relationships, different skills, different ideologies, whatever that is, that can build you in a stronger foundation for the next challenge that is about to come. that you don't even see yet.
No, I mean, it's basic biology. It's like the strength of a species is in its diversity, right? So like the more diverse a species is, including humans, the more resilient it is to changes in their environment. So is a person. The more diversified a person is, the more resilient they are to challenges in their environment, right? So yeah, totally agree.
Because you also have a higher capacity of understanding the different environments. When you have more experiences, when you have more diverse experiences, you can navigate more different environments as well, because you can find commonalities and find trends, find patterns, and that makes it less scary to be in new situations or new challenges.
Yeah, and that's the cross-pollination of skills, right? Painting your garage may help you in some other task you couldn't even dream of later in your career, right?
But that's it. And I was thinking earlier, you know, of all the work that you did, you know, the going to Siemens, going, you know, back home, coming to New York is, you know, it was still part of the foundation. You know, it wasn't like you kind of just started out at Gary as an intern with no prior experience. Yes, it wasn't directly related, but it was still like a solid foundation.
Well, yeah, and I love this story. It's like you had no formal real marketing training, and now you're a top marketing brand, right? Like an engineer type.
I've learned everything on the job.
Yeah. And it just goes to show that like it's just the hard work, the dedication, the belief. It's not a formal class training, right? Like,
yeah, I always talk about how intent, curiosity, and hard work can do anything in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the right intent and you're curious and you're willing to put in the work, you can achieve anything.
And that might be the answer to this very last question that I've got. I'm going to ask it anyway. If you could whisper one truth into the ear of someone who maybe feels stuck, who feels really impatient with their growth, because in today's instant gratification world, like I think a lot of us are feeling very impatient with growth, what would you tell them?
I would say two things. One, I think the theme of this is pivot. What I would say is pivot right there. If you feel stuck, pivot. But there's two parts to that. The only time you're not growing when you're stuck is there's two causes for that. One, you're causing your own stagnation of growth. Because again, maybe you're not putting in the 100%. Maybe you're just not interested in what you're doing. Or you're not realizing you don't have the right habits to actually get to that point. So you are the cause of that. Or the other version is you're in an environment that's not letting you grow. People around you don't want you to grow. You don't have the right tools. You're not in the right place. You're not in the right career. You're not in the right spot. So the first question you need to ask is, which of the two is it? Is it me or is it my environment? And if it's me, it's easy. I need to change my habits, or I need to change something about what I control.
Mm-hmm.
If it's my environment, then I need to change the environment.
Yeah.
Because there is no reason that you cannot grow unless you're yourself stopping yourself or your environment stopping you from growing. So pivot.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Sid, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a wonky.
Not what I expected, but I loved it.
I'm going to call it wonky podcast.
It was great.
I think it might be because we've done 4 in a day, but so I'm sorry about that. But also, no, I actually think there's just been so many amazing kind of pockets and insights in this conversation that are going to be so valuable.
That was my favorite
to so
podcast.
Many people.
Yeah, I think it's really
Thank
good. Yeah.
You say that on every episode?
Every episode.
So I had an NYU professor on earlier. He fangirled so hard.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 scientists. I was like, oh God, what?
We didn't even get to talk science.
I know. Yes, because I hogged all the questions. Anyway, Sid, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's been, we've had our last one in New York. It's been an amazing trip to the US. We've met some incredible people.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of our listeners, viewers, wherever you are, as always, please make every decision count. And I hope Sid has given you lots of food for thought in this episode. We'll link to Sid's profiles below. If any of you guys want to reach out, please do so and ask questions, lots of them. We love to hear them. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks. Bye.